Happy morning, one and all. Today I would like to share with all of you the practice towards skill acquisition. There are several principles and aspects of skill acquisition, and today, in fact, I wanted to go live with it. I have always loved this word in vigor because in vigor means to fill life with life. This has been my favorite word, and I have been practicing to fill my life with vigor. So, beginning with great vigor, here are the principles towards skill acquisition. I would like to share with you one of the incidents with the VT school principal. I have been a dentist on one hand, and I have also been pursuing my passion of mind. So I have great interest towards mind psychology, and I've also been pursuing my interest and my passion of my studies and research on human mind. So you can call me a dentist and a mentist. This is a new word which is coined by me, but I have a great interest in my dental sciences as well as in mental sciences. So during one of the training program which I wanted to request the principal to hold on related to programming of the mind, when I met the principal, she in fact shared with me the need for training centers on skill acquisition. Because she says that our current education system has a limitation wherein there is a lot of importance given to a lot of information storage or a lot of imparting of knowledge. So how much of that, see the greater scope for knowledge, gathering of knowledge has been the prime factor. But there are other aspects to life where skill acquisition and developing competence becomes very important in being successful in life. The more the skills you've learned and the more competent enough you are, you will be able to handle life, and you know how competitive the world outside is. So it's very important to develop enough skills so that you can survive and the tough terrains of life. So in order to become successful in life, it is very important to develop several skills. And she definitely shared the need for a system or a training system which focuses on skill acquisition. So because, and you should know this because our Gurukula system of education was very powerful in imparting knowledge in terms of skill. So it was not only knowledge-based learning but also an apprenticeship phase of learning where the student would stay in the Gurukula system, and the ideal age for apprenticeship is the teenage, wherein you're actually developing your emotions, your intelligence, and it is also right time to be able to understand and become independent to handle life as an adult. So the Gurukula system of education also focused on skill acquisition. A major portion was also acquiring skills along with imparting knowledge. So it was a holistic system. The Gurukula system was a holistic system which also gave a lot of importance to skill acquisition. And you should also understand the division of caste, which was the 4 varnas in our culture, because it was based on skills. So the varnas were divided based on the skills, because the genetical inheritance of skills was the idea maybe, because what happens is the skill acquisition would go as a lineage, so it would become easier for people because they would have mastered the skills and these skills would go into the lineage and would be inherited. So this was one of the methods, but there were a lot of political exploitations and political significance to it. I'm not going to touch that, but I just wanted to bring about the importance of skill acquisition in the culture, as a basic root in the culture of the system. A system was there which emphasized on skill acquisition. So there are several principles to skill acquisition, and one of the important principles is practice. practice towards skill acquisition. So the only important master key to skill acquisition is practice, practice, practice. I've been repeating it several times because repetition is the mother of learning. There's a particular methodology or a system or a process in which our brain learns new things. A skill can be trained and it can be acquired. So there is a particular programming of the mind that needs to be done. Most of the times I have a great fascination for the human brain, and I believe that the human brain is one of the magical design by nature, or a human body as such is a wonderful gift. So and I'm even more fascinated about the anatomy of the brain, the anatomy of the human body. So this fascination goes up to my anatomy classes where I held the brain in my hand and I was wondering, wow, what a great tool. And it just makes you experience the entire world and life around just with this tool. So there are several aspects of a design of a human body, and brain can be reprogrammed. And I also understand the wonderful design of brain when I had my brother who experienced a stroke, and then the key aspect of his recovery was neuroplasticity of the brain. It is such a wonderful structure that the neuroplasticity of brain helps the significant healing of a person. So there are several aspects to the programming of the brain which can change human behavior, and it can play and influence your life completely. So the process of skill acquisition has close correlation with the programming of the human brain, and there is a particular learning process of the brain. If you see, I have had several people who have approached me to train them in spoken English, but then what happens is the 5-year-old kid is able to absorb everything because the brain is like a blank slate and it is like an absorptive sponge. It absorbs everything. I have learned 5 languages without even going to any classes because I had a community or an ecosystem of people who spoke multiple languages. So without even being trained in the going for proper training classes, I had already absorbed multiple languages before I was 5 years age. So imagine what can be the programming of the brain. What is the plasticity or the capacity of the human brain? So one of the greatest design is definitely the human brain and the human intelligence along with the human body. It's a miracle. It is a greatest gift. So this is how the training is to take place, and I had learned multiple languages before I was 5. So the key importance factor which I want to share with all of you is there is a certain capacity or the methodology of learning of the brain. So there are several training classes in English language. It is what they do is they train you with the knowledge how it has to be done. But it is very important to practice spoken English. So people who are interested to learn spoken English or any other aspect of speaking English or any other skill, it is important to practice. We have heard several stories of legends, but we only know their success story, but we have never known the story of their efforts. That we have never paid much attention to the kind of efforts that has gone behind their success. If you see Sachin Tendulkar, he would daily travel by train, the Mumbai trains, to the stadium to practice. 10,000 shots on a daily basis was practiced by Sachin Tendulkar to become, even before he became a legend. So there are a lot of efforts that has gone behind. If you take the Olympic, Usain Bolt or any other sportsman or any other successful people, they had to practice what they achieved on a daily basis consistently. They were driven by their self-motivation definitely, but practice played an important role. It played as well as paid an important role in their life. They had to pay the value of efforts. Conscious efforts is a must to lead you to effortlessness. It is very important to put conscious efforts. So the progressive putting or implementation takes you into a final stage which culminates into an auto mode of effortlessness. So there is a journey from efforts to effortlessness where you would be reaping the benefits of all your efforts. This phase, so the first important criteria in skill acquisition is practice. Repetition is the mother of learning, and the human brain has a process in which it learns. The training of a human brain is it goes through a process of learning, and becomes more significant with practice and repetition. So repetition is the mother of learning. So it's very important to practice and repeat. Why does repetition play an important role in skill acquisition? Because you have to understand the working of the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is the treasure house and the powerhouse which helps to manifest your dreams. So you have to program your subconscious mind into effortlessness. And that happens by developing a habit of the skills. Whichever skills you have, you just have to develop the habit of practicing those skills, so it just gets into the auto mode of your subconscious programming. So in order to activate and tap the subconscious mind, practice is a must. Practice is the only key to skill acquisition. Repetition is the mother of learning. It is always the system which teaches us that you put in effort, so you will get a linear result. So there is a dynamism of collectivity which happens. Once you practice, you keep practicing consistently, you will reach a phase of culminated effect. You will reach the cycle of accelerated returns. So another important principle of skill acquisition is the cycle of accelerated returns. What does this cycle of accelerated returns mean? It is a journey from efforts to effortlessness. Definitely a lot of conscious efforts have to be put. There is a point when it acts like a domino effect. You're going to place the dominoes. There is efforts in placing the dominoes, but once there is a flow effect which happens. So the cycle of accelerated returns is reached when you practice enough that the culmination of all the practice opens up a circuit in the brain is programmed to an auto mode, and it starts giving miraculous results. The results that unfold are miraculous. It's beyond all expectations. So this happens when you train your mind enough through practice and repetition. It reaches a point or a tipping point of accelerated results. Usually whenever we begin a task, we are very enthusiastic, we are very energetic, we started with great enthusiasm, but there is a middle stage of the task wherein we have to give ourselves completely, but we make it very boring and it becomes very monotonous. So the moment it becomes boring and monotonous, there are chances we quit. And we never complete the journey wherein we reach the tipping point of cycle of accelerated returns. I had several assumptions as I've shared with you, and one of the assumptions is I would give myself so much in the initial days. I would have lot of interest and I would have lot of enthusiasm to complete the task. But there's a middle stage which seems very boring and monotonous, and at that stage I would have quit. So you must all have recollect the story of the fox and the grape story, the sour grapes and the fox. Most of the times I would go for a task, the moment I wouldn't reach it, there are times when I've left several skills saying it is sour. You know the story of the fox, right? Where this fox says the grapes is sour and it just leaves back just because it didn't grasp the height of the grape. It just goes and tells the grape is sour. In a similar way, there are several phases in my life where I have said the grapes is sour and I have given up learning several skills. So we have to understand that the skill acquisition is a process. So you will have a beginning phase, a middle phase and the culminating phase. So you have to put yourselves completely into the process. If you break it midway, the skill will never become a part of your brain programming. So you have to go through the entire processes. As you progress, it is a progressive development and training of the brain and programming of the brain. There are chances that you can give up in the middle. So persistence is the key. Consistent directed, self-motivated effort is the key to success in skill acquisition. You should have the inner drive and passion to complete, because after some time, when the initial enthusiasm wanes away, it is your passion and the desire to learn it that pushes you forward. The self-motivation of passion, the inner desire to learn the skill, which propels you to complete the task. And know that the rewards of life are only at the end of completion. So even with the skill acquisition, it is going to be fruitful only when you have completed the process, not in the middle where you have given up. So persistence becomes very important. There are several stories which tell us this importance of persistence. So wherever it comes to skill acquisition, practice is a key factor. Then consistent efforts, consistent directed self-motivated efforts, and these efforts have to be persistent. So when the moment you do this, you are creating a ripple effect. So you should know that the basic design of life is such that in order to achieve big things, you have to make smaller things, a group of smaller things. For example, when I was a child, I remember placing these building blocks. The game of building blocks that we play, I played it as a child, and when I was playing the building blocks, so you know that there are basic elements and you can place one after the other to create a bigger design. So in order to achieve complex things, you have to practice simple things and they will be culminating into a bigger design. So even with skill acquisition, you have to go step by step, build blocks by blocks, and then you would have mastered the skill. So this is very similar to the ripple effect. You are going to practice one single art, it has got a ripple effect. Or you are going to place the domino patterns, you are going to create such patterns in your subconscious mind so that you have a holistic design and you become a master of skill acquisition. So the cycle of accelerated returns is like the cumulative effect, the compounding principle of life, wherein the simpler things, when done repeatedly, will reach a cycle of accelerated returns where you will only be expecting results in the form of multiples, but it is in the terms of powers. So it's x to the power of infinity. It is going to be, you can add x to the power of n. So that is the cycle of accelerated returns, and that happens through repeated practice and completion of each cycle. See, a human body is designed to take action. So the human intelligence, the mind, is equipped in such a way so that it supports a person to take action, and human body is the greatest instrument which can enhance the life of the creator. It's the greatest gift. So you can make living better by your own human intelligence, which can create several things. So knowing the value of the system, you can create powerful subconscious imprints or programming once you complete a task. You take an idea, implement it, that completes the cycle, and completed cycles will give you the cycles of accelerated returns. Most of the times we have an idea, but we never implement it. So you have to complete the task of finishing a task. A task is thought, you have the emotion and the drive to complete it, and then you complete the task. And such completed tasks will give you accelerated returns in life. You're going to reach the cycle of accelerated returns by taking simpler tasks, consistently repeating it on a daily basis. This is the way you're going to reach the cycle of accelerated returns. So this is one of the key aspects of the principle of skill acquisition. So you're going to create the profound programming of your subconscious mind by repeating tasks consistently, and it's not incomplete tasks. It is the repetition of completed tasks. So you're going to create a habit. So a subconscious mind is, it's formed by habits. It is a conditioning that happens, and then you start working in an auto mode. It's very similar to learning cooking, driving, and whatsoever. You have heard your grandma say that she's proficient in cooking. So the proficiency in skill acquisition happens, and that is called as tacit knowledge. You have heard your grandma saying, I don't know how I prepare so well. If you ask her to say, Grandma, how are you preparing it so well? Though our human intellect says that she'll give you step by step, but you will not be able to cook the way your grandma cooks, because there's so much of practice and improvised efforts that has gone in the process. So she has attained the mastery of the skill by practice. So the other important process in skill acquisition is acquiring tacit knowledge. Tacit knowledge is an auto mode where you can't just explain how you have done, because it becomes there is a flow and a grace in which you are doing, because it becomes a part of your system. So how do you develop this tacit knowledge? What is tacit knowledge? It so happened that the medieval period, the Gothic cathedrals were the greatest symbols of human craftsmen. So during the apprenticeship phase, it is a well developed system of apprenticeship where there were no books. It is only through that apprenticeship phase of skill acquisition where they were trained constantly. So they would train them in skill acquisition by allowing them to practice. They were given several projects, so then they became masters in that particular art. So the Middle Age period and the Gothic arch cathedrals are the existing proof for the apprenticeship phase, and it was the result of greatest skill practice and skill acquisition. I had dentistry requires a lot of skill compared to there's a lot of skills involved in dentistry. So what happens is, it is very important to practice your skills. So this happened, and I need to thank my mentor, Dr. Deepak Nath, who helped me in getting trained in practicing a lot of my dental skills. Because I think whenever parents are promoting or encouraging the child to develop a skill, they should have a trust in the child, and they should facilitate the development of the skill. So there are three important processes in the development of the skill. You have to tell them, you have to show them, and then do it. The tell, show, do technique in skill acquisition is very helpful. In fact, when I was learning my skill and when I was mentored by Dr. Deepak Nath, he would tell me, this is how it needs to be done. He would create how things are done. He would tell me that, and then he would show me. There are several days when I have just stood by him and I've observed how things it's done. So he would show me how it is done, and then he would also allow me to do it. And every time I did it, slowly and progressively, he would come and correct it. He would improvise it, and then he would also correct it. So he was always there as a backup, and he would whom I could fall back. He was always there. I would go to him, I would approach him, and then he would always there to help me. So I definitely express my sincere and heartful gratitude to him, because he has been great inspiration and has also been a great mentor in helping me to acquire several skills in dentistry. And I definitely have mastered several skills in dentistry, and I think the entire credit goes to him, because he has given me enough practice in it. So the tell, show, do technique is very helpful in developing a skill. It helps you to develop a tacit knowledge where you actually don't know how you're doing it, but there is a great flow and grace to it. Even in case of dancers, they would have invested several years. So you cannot be desperate to acquire a skill. There's a particular time frame for development of skill. It requires several years. And there is a rule which is called as the 10,000 hours rule, which says that if you practice any skill for 10,000 rules, you would reasonably well acquire that skill. So there is this 10,000 hours rule which helps you to acquire a skill. You can even break it down and say that if you invest 1 hour on a daily basis, you can also, for over a period of a month, you can be good enough at a particular skill. So skill acquisition requires consistent practice extended over a period of time. There's a particular time frame, because it's a process. It requires some time for you to adapt, to improvise, and there is a lot of molding that happens, and a lot of reinforcement and programming that is also simultaneously happening. So you cannot be desperate in learning a skill. You have to give enough time to learn the skill. And I was such a desperate, because there are several tasks. I would be initially going to learn a skill. I would be very excited. I would learn the skill. But what happened is, during the process, initially I would be very enthusiastic. But in the middle, I would say it's boring, and I've left several tasks. I've given up on several tasks. So it's similar to, I take a seed today. I dig it, and I want the seed to grow. But what happens? Every day I open it, take it out and put it in another thing. So I have tried myself on several skills like that. So the other important principle of skill acquisition is you have to focus on one single task. So the idea of doing this is the moment you focus on that single task and bring it to completion, you can use the same task as a foundation where you can add on other skills. But it's important to focus on one skill at a time. If I dig a seed today, again remove it, dig it on another place, do you think the seed will even plant or even sprout? No chance at all. So in the process of labeling so many things as monotonous, boring, I have jumped onto several skills or several fields. So that does not work, because you have to give enough time. There is a time frame. You have to have patience. There is no room for desperation. You are just not even allowing the blossoming. You're not even allowing the sprouting. So it is a process. It's a life process. It is not a destination. You are so bent upon focusing on the results that we have not giving enough time to the process, not putting enough efforts into the process. That's where the greatest lesson from Bhagavad Gita comes. Focus on the process and I will take care of the results. So please focus on the process, involve yourself, give enough time, and the results will follow gradually. So it is important to focus on the process of skill acquisition. Put yourself into it, do constant improvisation and adapt it so that it works. Make things work. Use your intelligence in the direction of making things work rather than cribbing, justifying, giving excuses, giving up on it, and labeling it as monotonous, boring. You have to have the perseverance to complete the task. Completion of enough tasks gives you the cycles of accelerated returns. So the important aspects and principles of skill acquisition is tacit knowledge, then the cycles of accelerated returns, which can be achieved by practice and practice alone. A dancer can become graceful. There is no difference between the dancer and the dancing, and this magical state or phase happens when you reach the cycle of accelerated returns. It is a stage of flow. Your subconscious mind is programmed in such a way, you can call people lucky, but do you know how they are at the right place, the right time, and they be the right people? Everything is going on right because they have reinforced themselves, creating a domino effect of resourceful habits. They have created that pattern for themselves and programmed the mind in such a way that they have made the right choices. They have practiced making several choices, and as they made the right choices, they made the right corrections, and they aligned themselves and tuned themselves, becoming lucky. It is a pattern you create. It is a domino effect. You can also call it as a tornado effect, which happens. For example, you have understood the magnetic motor. The moment there is an energy, there is a lot of magnetic field and the electric field that is created when the motor moves. So in a similar way, you would have set a pattern where it is going to, these compounded efforts, the simple efforts that you have applied, get compounded together and created this magnificent result where it is compounded, and you attract things to people. You attract opportunities, you attract the right people, and the right resources come to you. And this is all about programming your mind into a stage through conscious efforts. You enter a stage of effortlessness where you are in a flow, you are in a grace. And everything about nature, everything about life becomes a resource for you to manifest your desires and dreams. You will be making decisions, you will be making the right choices, and that is when people call you lucky. They say that you are lucky, but you don't know what is the programming and the efforts that has gone in becoming lucky. So you are in that phase of accelerated returns where whatever you touch becomes gold. It's like the Midas touch. And these are the important principles in skill acquisition, and I had to go through the several programs which helped me realize my mistakes, because I was a person who had a huge potential, but potential can give results. The results can be manifested only when you take action. So this is the role of action performance leadership, which I was introduced to by Dr. Anita. She was the person who introduced me to action performance leadership, and from then on I have realized my mistakes, and my journey of realizing and transformation was helped by several mentors and teachers, and I would definitely love to thank all of them. So I have been trained into the application mode. I had a lot of potential, and today I'm reaping holistic abundance, be it my personal life, the professional life, and my family life. In different aspects of holistic abundance, I'm being trained by different systems. It is, be it Satya from Consumax, then Holy Alexander Deepak Shinde, and Mahatri of Infinitism. They have been great mentors who knew the limitation of our education system and are helping several people transform their lives and lead a happy and a successful life. They say this and that is important. You have to be happy at the same time successful, and they're just not talking about it, but they are inspiring people and training people to achieve abundance, holistic abundance in their lives. They have been beacons of transformation in several lives, and I definitely want to thank them. And if you want to learn several other aspects on skill acquisition and mastering your life, having a wonderful life, they have been created great systems for legendary possibilities of living a celebrative life. So here is my sincere and heartful gratitude to these legendary people who are creating transformation in several lives. At the same time, I thank them for helping me realize my mistakes of several assumptions and then guiding me through the process of action performance leadership. Thanking all of them, and at the same time emphasizing these factors on skill acquisition, practice, then the tacit knowledge that is programmed in your brain. You don't just know how you're doing it, but you are doing it in a flow. And the cycle of accelerated returns, which can give you the whirlpool effect. You just don't know. There is a tornado effect, and everything about your life changes. And for that transformation to happen, you have to practice, and practice. Practice towards skill acquisition. Wishing you all most and more. Have a great and celebrative life. Thank you so much.